Hello everyone and welcome to Randomosity Ramble. Today I'm going to go on the r/ask Reddit subreddit and I'm going to read about a topic which was posted there a while ago, and it was concerning conspiracy theories. Now, I couldn't find the exact thread I was looking for, or maybe I did. I'm not sure if this is the one, because this was a couple of days ago now, but back then I didn't have the time to make this recording, so now I'll be going back to that topic. I'm not sure if the thread is exactly the same, and read some of the things on there that I find interesting and maybe comment on them a bit. So here we go. So the name of the thread was what is the scariest conspiracy theory if true? All right. Let's see. Let's get an interesting one. So here's one. It says, we are all just a code in a simulation being run by a far more intelligent species who is trying to determine why humans died out long ago. They run the simulation to cover millions of years, to pinpoint the moments where we went wrong, and to learn why civilization crumbled, to prevent the same fate from taking them. When we die, our code is either terminated entirely or is repurposed into another life in a form of digital reincarnation. So this is obviously one of those conspiracy theories that have been gaining on popularity quite a lot lately in the last couple of years, about the world being a simulation. And me personally, I do find these kind of theories interesting, but I don't really believe them somehow, because when you look at it, everything could be a simulation. This could be a simulation of a simulation of a simulation, and so on and so on. But I don't really think it's the case. I can't really tell you why, but it just doesn't feel like it. Although a good simulation wouldn't feel like a simulation to the person living in it, obviously. But I somehow just don't have the feeling that this is a simulation we're living in. Okay, let's see. What else can we find? Scrolling now. That every UFO that has been reported is actually a part of one of the government's black budget secret programs, which get over $60 billion in funding each year, and that the government has created such a stigma around UFOs and aliens that it would be entirely feasible for them to create the ultimate false flag event, think 9/11 times a million, to make the populace believe there is an actual alien invasion happening, so they can either A, create a situation that would help pull the world together, or B, give them an excuse to pour hundreds of billions of dollars more into the military program without the people questioning it. So when it comes to UFOs, me personally, I really do believe that a lot of the UFO sightings could be attributed to secret government programs. They don't have to be necessarily US. They can be Russian or Chinese and so on. But think about it. If you are one of the world superpowers, you would constantly want to have an edge over your competitors. For an example, if the US would probably always want to have an edge over China and Russia and so on, so you would constantly be investing in new technologies. And some of these technologies would obviously be top secret, like aircrafts that have some very advanced propulsion systems. And of course, you would want your enemies to know as little about them as possible. You wouldn't want them to know the principles on which that propulsion system worked and so on. Or maybe if UFOs were not UFO sightings were not the result of your secret programs, then you wouldn't want your enemies to know about your inability to stop unidentified aircrafts from flying all over your airspace. And of course, you wouldn't admit that they're not yours. Then again, you could also, if you were for an example, the U.S., you could be motivated to keep the UFO phenomenon under wraps, so to speak, because maybe you think those are Russian aircrafts, and you wouldn't want to admit to your own population that another country has aircrafts that are so powerful and so quick and everything that you cannot even catch them, and that they might be aircrafts from your rival country, because as we can all assume that would bring a great deal of unrest to your population. So it's easier to keep it in the air and say maybe it's aliens, and none of us can really counter their level of technology. I mean, that would be better than admitting that Russians or the Chinese have better aircrafts than you. So I think that all in all, it is the UFO phenomenon is very useful for various countries to like kind of maintain an aura of mysticism around those sightings, so that you don't have to admit that your rivals have technology that is better than yours, and so on. So yeah, it could really be anything when it comes to the UFOs. It's tough to speculate on that one. Okay, here's another one. That the rich elite have grown bored of mundane highs and delights and murder, rape, sacrifice, and hunt humans for entertainment. They do it because they're so rich they can buy anything they want, and it doesn't satisfy them. They're attracted to morbid, disgusting, and crude art, music, and hobbies. This one really is scary. It really does make you think, because when you think about it, imagine if you are like as rich as, I don't know who's rich. Elon Musk. I'm not saying that Elon Musk is a part of the murdering elite, but imagine if you had billions and billions of dollars and you literally had anything. I mean, anything you could want, you could buy. Would you grow bored? Would you maybe start thinking away, what can I do that will, make my heart go faster and stuff like that? Would you, as terrifying as it sounds, resort to hunting other humans, murdering them and so on, just because nothing else can satisfy? I hope not. I don't believe people work that way. I don't believe that when you're so bored, you're going to hunt and kill other people. But it is interesting to think about, because we are very different, all of us. And of course, most of us are quite normal. But imagine what happens imagine if a person, like, I don't know, who would be some kind of a famous serial killer. I can't remember really a name now. I don't know. Imagine if Jeffrey Dahmer, if he was ultra rich, then he could do the things he did, but with a lot more, with quite a larger safety net, knowing that he would never be caught because he has so much money, he can always cover his tracks. Now, some people say that psychopaths and sociopaths, they're usually quite intelligent, so even if they're not rich, they're, quite confident that they can be caught. And even some investigations conclude that some psychopaths or sociopaths would never have been caught if they haven't decided themselves that they've had enough, that they're bored with it, and that they basically want to get caught. So yeah, maybe if you're a psycho, when it comes to this theory of the rich elite murdering, raping, and sacrificing, and so on, I don't think that a normal person, however rich they were, could ever get so bored to the point that they would murder people and so on. I think that they would have to have that trait in their personality already. I think that they should be a psychopath or a sociopath, and but as they say that psychopaths and sociopaths usually are pretty intelligent by nature, they don't really need a lot of money to be able to do those things without getting caught. So I don't really think that this theory holds much water, but you never know. obviously. And someone replied saying that the Panama Papers, which is around 11 million documents that leaked, showed a lot of money laundering, tax evasion, money being secretly handed off to terrorist organizations, offshore accounts being used to hide crimes, including theft, and at least one instance of rape of underage orphans. This person said a lot of fun researching that one. Yeah, I don't know if I'd call that fun. But okay, maybe in some way it is. And it said mostly from all over the world, mostly top 1% of government officials. Okay. Let's go further. Scrolling. Okay, so someone mentioned the Ninth Circle cult UK and the Finders cult global, the Hampstead child abuse scandal, that Theresa May destroyed the Westminster child abuse dossier to protect herself and her friends. European royals hosting human hunting parties, that the US Customs Agency trafficked children in the 70s, 80s, including Amy Billig. That Johnny Gosch, first kid on a milk carton, was one of the Rand boys. George Bush was investigated for hiring at the White House decades later and was brainwashed. Jersey Island is where the rich European politicians go to sleep with kill-trafficked children. So this is the similar one to the one we read before. And someone replied saying, I was thinking the same about the human trafficking that is rumored about in American politics. I think human trafficking is proof enough that there are people in this world rich enough that they can get away with anything, and so they do. Not that there isn't awful regular people trafficking others, but I think it had to have had a lot of powerful people backing it initially to have to be so organized and big now. Let's see further. Don't go to the light, it's a trap. The light at the end of the tunnel that people report seeing when they have near-death experiences is to be avoided because that's how they get you. They are some unscrupulous aliens who installed a soul-collecting machine on the moon or something. The scary thing for me is the idea that you can be tricked into enslaving yourself in the afterlife as soon as you die. Someone replied to that saying, I swear I read a short science fiction story with the basically same idea when I was a kid. The concept was that these ethereal beings floated around in the upper atmosphere were the source of the human concept of angels' heavens, but they were essentially just eating people's souls as they popped up. Can't for the life of me remember what it was called though. Someone said it's called The Harvest by Tom Godwin. Google Books has a copy. Search for the word Frailings. Okay, so I guess if you're interested in reading about that one, you can go over to Google Books and read it. And this, I have to admit, is really unsettling because, it's the afterlife and we don't know much about it. Well, everybody has their religion and their faith, and we all believe something, but nobody really knows for sure. And this idea really is unsettling to read about. Okay, let's see. Okay, so this is one that this reply I've seen for a couple of times before when I was reading it, a while back, and it says the reason that we have not made contact with aliens is not because they aren't out there, but because they are purposefully being quiet, because they are aware of some other large threat. So it is like this theory that the universe is like a huge dark forest, and every species is like a hunter trying to move as quietly and as they can through the forest, so as not to alarm the other hunters. And the forest is very dark and everything, and everybody is very careful to cover their tracks and to be quiet so they don't get shot, so they can eliminate the other hunters who are a threat to them. Essentially like a giant battle royale. And that would make us the only, dumb species that is basically, as we, sent all our satellites and radio waves, and we basically tried everything we can to contact aliens, and so it would make us idiots who are like the only hunter in this forest yelling and shouting, basically drawing attention to ourselves, not being aware that somebody is around the corner waiting to get us, and that everyone else is quiet because they know how the game is played, and we're the only ones who are oblivious to it. And yeah, pretty scary. Okay, this is an interesting one. The Atlantis is real. Humans are a species with amnesia, and we had civilizations rise before us that fell hard enough to send us back to the Stone Age. Pretty terrifying. Remnants of modern civilization would like only last about 10,000 years, and that's only for our largest structures, like the Hoover Dam. We can't learn from our old mistakes if there isn't a history to study. Yeah, this is really interesting, and this basically goes hand in hand with what, if you heard about, what is his name? Graham Hancock. Yeah, so he's like a scientist. I think he's an archaeologist or something. So basically, he has this idea that the human history goes way further than we actually believe it does today through conventional history. And the reason he says this is because of large structures like the Göbekli Tepe in modern day Turkey, or the pyramids, the Sphinx, and so on. And he says that many of these structures they're made from these huge slabs of stones and rock, and some of this, like Göbekli Tepe, they were made before humans ever lived a sedentary life. Before they ever had the capabilities to really erect a building of that size. So what he says is that basically there has to have been another civilization, not necessarily the civilization at the level that we have today, but that official history begins at some 3,500 years before Christ, when the first writing system appeared in Sumeria. But what Graham Hancock says is that a civilization like the Sumerian one, or other civilizations like it, at its level of advancement, could have existed way before we think, and that this civilization was probably spread out throughout the globe, but a cataclysm happened, like maybe a volcano erupted, or a meteorite strike happened or something, and it pretty much destroyed most of the evidence that we have for it. So all that is left now is some structures like pyramids, Göbekli Tepe and things like that. So we have some pieces, but not enough to fill out the puzzle, and it's really interesting to think about it, that our history goes way further than we currently can definitely say that it does. Okay. Let's see if we can find something else. Something maybe a bit different than the things we've had the chance to read about up until now. More replies. The Franklin cover-up. A man named Lawrence C. King was running the Franklin Credit Union in Omaha in the 1980s until it was discovered he embezzled tens of millions of dollars. It was also, so this is similar to what we read before about elites being pedophiles and so on. So I think we've had enough of that. I'm going to skip it. Let's see. This is an interesting one. It says, remember flight MH17 that was shot down by Russia over Ukraine? 100 of the world's top scientists for AIDS research was on that plane, and the former president of the International AIDS Society was there as well. The cure for AIDS was close to being accomplished, and the New World Order, or top governments around the world, allowed it to be shot down. And the reply was edited saying that it was pointed out by someone that it was actually 6 and not 100. Not 100 of the world's top scientists, but 6 is a lot as well. So yeah, it really does seem like too many to be a coincidence that it was shot down. Along with the the president of the International AIDS Society. So yeah, it really does make. I mean, of course, it could be just a coincidence. Thinking about it, it probably is, because scientists often go on international seminaries and so on. So maybe that's why the president of the International AIDS Society and the other scientists specialized in researching AIDS were there. So maybe they were going to a seminary, and as there was conflict in Ukraine at the time, the plane got shot down and so on. When you think about it, it's not so weird. But then again, maybe that's the reason why they would choose such an opportunity to shoot down the plane. But the question is, why would someone not want a cure for AIDS to be found? Yeah. All right. Okay, so this is, I think this is the last one that I'll read for today, and it says that the Mandela effect means we're in an alternate reality. The Mandela effect is basically a whole lot of people remembering events happening differently than they are officially recorded in history, and it's called that because a lot of people remember Mandela's funeral happening years sooner than it actually did. The theory ties into the CERN Hadron Collider. No one really knew what would happen when they turned it on. Worst case scenario, it might make a mini black hole and kill us all instantly. The theory says that when they turned on the collider, it actually did kill us all, and that the sudden event shifted our entire world into a parallel reality, where we just kind of continued to exist like nothing really happened. The side effects are the Mandela effect, and that some people still remember things how they happen in the old reality. So it is, for instance, when everyone remembers that in Star Wars, Darth Vader said, Luke, I am your father, when in fact he said, no, I am your father. Or there was that, of course, the Mandela effect, after which it was named, with many people remembering that Mandela died while in prison in South Africa back in, I don't know, the 80s or something, when in fact he was released from prison and died in 2000 and something. And the third most famous example would be of the Bernstein Bears, a Bernstein family, which I think it's about spelling, that some people think it was spelled like Bernstein, something it was a bit different. I don't really know, to be sure. But anyway, yeah, it's interesting when a lot of people remember something differently, but all the evidence shows they're wrong. So it's like weird, how can a lot of people remember that thing the same way when it's actually when evidence points out that it's the other way around. And how most people explain this is that the human memory is pretty faulty and is very often wrong, and that could be the reason why a huge number of people thinks they remember something correctly when in fact they're completely wrong. Alright, so that would be it for today. I hope you found this interesting, and I'll see you next time. Bye.